The fact is with Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reaves on the court, you don't scare anybody.
That reality is aging like fine wine, and it is bitter, because when your cold-blooded assassin passes up a game winner in money time, you know the chemistry is fractured. Maybe the pressure is finally cooking him, or maybe it is something the king whispered in the huddle. Either way, the temperature in that locker room just hit the boiling point. Here is the breakdown, the final collapse, and LeBron's cold-blooded message. February 24th, 2026. Lakers versus Magic. 34-22 record with playoff lives hanging by a thread. They dominated the first half, up 12. Then the wheels came off. Wendell Carter Jr. slams a putback, and suddenly Orlando is up 110 to 109. 6.7 seconds on the clock. Season on the line. Timeout Lakers. Coach Jay Redick draws up the death blow. LeBron triggers the inbound. The play is designed for Luka Dončić. One shot for glory. LeBron fires the pass. Luka catches it on the left wing. He is wide open. The three-point line is right there. It is the moment superstars live for. But Luka freezes. He puts the ball on the floor. Banchero and Anthony Black swarm him instantly. Panic sets in. Luka kills his dribble. He tosses a grenade back to LeBron, who is smothered and falling out of bounds near the right wing. LeBron heaves a 27-foot prayer, fading away. Iron, buzzer, ball game, Lakers lose. The postgame presser was a firing squad. Reporters grilled Luka on that final sequence. What did he see? Why did he hesitate? He stammered. Said he knew he was open, but felt he was too far out. Said he tried to take one dribble to get closer. Just one dribble. That one dribble was the difference between a clean look and a suffocating double team. Luka caught that ball clean with nothing but daylight and destiny in front of him, and he refused to pull the trigger. He admitted he should have just picked it up. He stuttered through it, saying he should have attacked the rim. He owned the mistake, technically. He claimed he should have driven instead of picking up his dribble, but the reporters dug deeper, twisting the knife. Luka was shooting 8 for 24 that night. He was a miserable 2 for 10 from deep. So, was this about distance, or was his confidence completely shot? He wavered. Admitted maybe it played a part. Said he thought he had time. Thought 7 seconds was an eternity. He acknowledged the ice-cold shooting night got inside his head. He thought 7 seconds was enough to manufacture a better miracle. He was right about the clock. He was dead wrong about the cost. In the split second, he hesitated and killed his dribble. The defense rotated, and his only option was dumping the tragedy onto a covered LeBron James. Then came LeBron. He says, I thought we had a good opportunity. Luka came off clean. I think he felt off balance. That was LeBron's opening statement. Calm, measured, surgical. He emphasized they had a good look and Luka was clean. That specific detail matters. LeBron is confirming the screen worked, the play worked, the player failed. Then he dropped the line that sparked every headline, every debate show, and every YouTube thumbnail for the next 48 hours. He says, I am not sure. You have to ask Luka what he saw on that. But I thought he had a good look. You have to ask Luka. That sentence did all the heavy lifting. LeBron didn't explicitly say Luka choked. He just said, go ask him. He completely separated his legacy from Luka's decision. He took the weight of that loss and placed it squarely on Luka's shoulders. Then he threw in a little pity, saying it looked like he lost his balance. Maybe no rhythm, whatever the case may be. LeBron offered excuses that sounded a lot like indictments. Lost balance, no rhythm, whatever the case may be. It wasn't anger, it was detachment. He was describing a car crash he watched from 10 feet away. And then he twisted the knife one last time. I thought he had a great look. LeBron said it twice. The subtext was screaming, he should have shot the ball. He didn't say the words, but the message was loud and clear. Every reporter in that room felt the chill. Every camera caught the eye roll in his voice. The media ran with it instantly. Heavy.com called it blunt force trauma. Yahoo Sports ran a headline accusing LeBron of disrespecting his co-star. Bleacher Report put the videos side by side like a crime scene investigation. Social media went nuclear. Some said LeBron threw Luka under the bus. Others said Luka handed LeBron a live grenade, a contested 27-footer with 0 seconds to breathe. Skip Bayless tore Luka to shreds, calling the explanation lousy and trashing the entire final sequence. Even Coach Redick couldn't save him. He confirmed the design. He stammered, saying, obviously, we ran a play for him to get a look. I felt like we had a decent shot. The play was for Luka. The moment was for Luka. Luka simply refused to take it. And LeBron, with the calmness of a veteran killer, told the world that the door was open and Luka just didn't walk through it. But the game told a darker story than just the buzzer. The Lakers blew a 12-point lead, and that collapse is the real ghost haunting this team. They came out swinging, dictating the pace, burying jumpers, looking every bit like the 7-2 juggernaut that emerged from the ashes of the Dončić blockbuster a year ago. Then the wheels completely fell off in the second half as the Orlando Magic refused to die, chipping away at the deficit possession by agonizing possession. The cushion evaporated, the electricity in the arena curdled into anxiety, and suddenly, the Lakers were gasping for air in a game they had in a stranglehold for 2.5 quarters. It marked a brutal milestone, the first time all season the purple and gold collapsed in a game they had led wire to wire. By the final buzzer, the box score screamed inefficiency. Luka finishing with 24 points on a dismal 8 for 24 shooting, while LeBron posted 25 points, 6 boards, and 7 dimes on a night of surgical precision. You want the story of the tragedy? Look no further than the chasm between those two stat lines. LeBron was letting the game come to him, operating in rhythm, while Luka was trying to force a square peg into a round hole, chucking up prayers that clanked off the iron and shattered the very confidence he'd need in the clutch. So when that inbounds pass hit his palms, Luka wasn't just holding a basketball, he was carrying the crushing weight of a 33. 0.3% shooting nightmare, a 20% clip from deep, and the sickening realization that this game should have been iced long before it came down to a prayer at the buzzer. But what gave LeBron's postgame interview such a seismic impact wasn't the words themselves. He was diplomatic, calculated, cool. It was the heavy silence between them. This wasn't a new ghost haunting the arena. The whispers about how these two alphas fit together had been circulating for months. Ever since the ink dried on the February 2025 blockbuster that shipped Anthony Davis to Dallas, this partnership has been under a microscope, dissected from every possible angle. LeBron played the PR game perfectly, navigating the minefield with grace, calling Dončić his favorite player and publicly declaring, after a January 2026 victory over the Mavs, that this was unequivocally Luka's squad, and the roster was falling in line behind him. He even spun a gridiron narrative for CBS Sports to sell the chemistry, branding Luka the natural-born quarterback while casting himself as the elite wide receiver. It was language designed to disarm, to lower the temperature, to position himself as the ultimate luxury piece, the slasher, the veteran sage who was happy to let the young gun dominate the rock. But in that press room, fresh off a gut punch, 1-point loss, the narrative cracked. The quarterback had the ball, the game on the line, and he refused to throw while his receiver was left waving his arms in the end zone. And the quarterback's excuse? I thought I was a little bit far. That line landed with a thud in a room full of reporters who had just watched the tape and seen him catch it wide open from 24 feet. Was this a declaration of war? No, it was a standard presser, but the subtext was screaming because the pressure cooker around this team is about to blow. You have to understand, this L didn't happen in a vacuum. It went down in the dead center of a mediocre 4-4 homestand, with chemistry questions boiling over and the locker room still reeling from a bomb LeBron's own agent dropped weeks ago. That right there is the real shadow war, and it wasn't fought in the hallway or the locker room. It was a proxy war fought on hot mics, on viral podcasts, and in the front row of the Crypto.com arena. Rich Paul, the trade demand, and the public power play. 6 weeks before the Magic debacle, on January 12th, 2026, Rich Paul sat down on Game Over with Max Kellerman and pulled the pin on a grenade that he rolled right into the Lakers front office. Paul, the head of Clutch Sports and the man who has been the architect of LeBron James's empire since he left Cleveland, took a generic conversation about roster construction and turned it into personal incendiary warfare. 36 minutes into the episode, Paul stopped speaking in hypotheticals and put the Lakers roster under a heat lamp, making a recommendation that wasn't just a suggestion, it was a directive, loud and clear. Rich Paul didn't mince words. If I was the Lakers, I would probably be targeting the Memphis Grizzlies as a partner, trade partner, for Jaren Jackson Jr. There it was, out in the open. Ship fan favorite Austin Reaves to Memphis and bring back Triple J. Paul's logic was cold and architectural, designed entirely around Luka Dončić's timeline and the gaping hole in the Lakers' interior defense. Jackson is 26. Dončić is 26. Jackson was the Defensive Player of the Year in 22-23, a guy who erases mistakes at the rim. He stretches the floor, a modern big who can knock down the three, even if his stroke runs hot and cold. Paul's argument was simple. If you're mortgaging the next 5 years on Dončić, you need a defensive anchor who fits that championship window perfectly, not another ball-dominant guard whose skills are just a pale imitation of what Luka already does better. There's a world where you can do what's best for your team and do what's best for Austin because Austin deserves to get paid right now. Paul framed it as a benevolent move, a chance for Reaves to go be the man in Memphis, get his shots, and secure the max bag. Only a team like the Grizzlies could offer. On paper, the math checks out. Reaves is on a 4-year, $53.8 million deal, eligible for a massive 5-year, $241 million extension in the summer of 26. The Lakers brass is staring down the barrel of a decision. Do they pay a king's ransom for a player whose talents are redundant next to their superstars, or do they flip the asset for a completely different archetype that solves their defensive nightmare? But inside the Lakers facility, the reaction was swift, severe, and absolutely furious. Jovan Buha reported that the front office was seething not just at the trade logic, but at the sheer audacity of an agent going on a Netflix-distributed podcast and publicly auctioning off another team's player. Front Office Sports got the raw feed from a team executive who didn't mince words, calling Paul's power move insane and completely effed up. The word tampering started drifting through the league's back channels like smoke from a hidden fire because neither Reaves nor Jackson is even on the Clutch roster. Yet here you have the most dominant power broker in professional basketball literally drawing up trade blueprints on a nationally syndicated show like he owns the league. He is packaging another agent's client on his own Times client's squad, and that digital disrespect quickly turned into a physical confrontation. Courtside, Austin Reaves' agent, Reggie Berry, didn't wait for a phone call. He walked right up to Rich Paul at the Lakers-Hawks game on January 13th. They squared up near half court during the first half, cameras rolling, fans watching, league officials staring right at them. Early reports didn't paint a pretty picture. They characterized the exchange as heated, tense, ready to boil over. Paul tried to spin the narrative later, downplaying the heat by noting he and Barry go back 20 years and claiming the chat only clocked in at about 5 minutes. He called it amicable, but in this league, perception is reality, and the optics were absolutely devastating. You have two rival agents standing on an NBA hardwood during a live game, debating the professional fate of a kid sitting on the bench not 20 feet behind them. This was the shadow war that every sensational headline and YouTube thumbnail had been hinting at for weeks. It wasn't a hallway ambush or a punch to the face. It was a collision of business interests playing out under the arena lights on national television. Inevitably, the microphones found LeBron James after the Hawks buzzer, demanding an answer for Rich Paul's rogue commentary. His response was the kind of surgically precise statement you only get from a guy with 22 years of navigating the media minefield. LeBron starts with the disclaimer. I think you all know by now Rich is his own man, and what Rich says is not a direct reflection of me and how I feel. Classic LeBron maneuver. That was just the opening gambit. Establish separation, create distance, draw a hard line between agent and client, then pivot to something deeper. He went on to say, AR knows how I feel about him. All you have to do is look at us on the bench. Me and AR talk every single day. LeBron wanted to underscore that his bond with Reaves wasn't on the chopping block. They communicate, they sit together, they share the sweat, the huddles, and the brutal daily grind of an 82-game marathon. Then came the sentence that LeBron almost certainly wishes he could reach back into the air and crush before it hit the tape recorders. So AR knows how I feel about him, and I hope AR or his camp don't look at me and think this is words from me. Words from me are coming through, Rich. He meant to say words from him are times, not times coming through, Rich, but the damage was done. That slip-up validated the exact perception he was desperately trying to burn down, that Clutch Sports and LeBron James operate as a single breathing organism, that what Rich Paul shouts on a podcast is exactly what LeBron whispers in the front office and into the ear of Rob Pelinka. The hosts of Locked On Lakers, Brian and Andy Kamenetsky, broke this down with forensic precision on their show. Andy tried to take LeBron at face value. He said he doesn't believe this specific trade hit list came from LeBron, but immediately admitted the weight of history crushes that benefit of the doubt. That is the inescapable trap. LeBron and Rich Paul have spent the better part of 2 decades operating in seamless, terrifying coordination. Pressure campaigns, cryptic social media posts, the ominous, lawyered-up statements that drop right before a player option decision. The partnership has delivered 4 championships, forced multiple franchise relocations, and built a billion-dollar media empire. But it has also conditioned every observer, every suit in the front office, and every guy in the locker room to believe one thing: that when Rich Paul talks, LeBron is the ventriloquist pulling the strings from behind the heavy velvet curtain. And now, even if LeBron genuinely had 0 fingerprints on the Reaves for Jackson suggestion, proving that separation is functionally impossible, meanwhile, the actual basketball merits of the proposal were being debated like a high-stakes court case. Silver Screen and Roll analyzed the X's and O's and concluded it wasn't total madness, given the Lakers' desperate thirst for interior defense since shipping off Anthony Davis. Jackson swats, shots, alters drives, and brings a vertical presence that neither Luka, LeBron, nor Austin Reaves can replicate in their dreams. But the counter-arguments hit back just as hard. Jackson collects fouls with alarming regularity, shoots only 35% from deep, and Memphis has 0 logical reason to bet their rebuild on a 28-year-old pending free agent. CBS Sports slammed it as dreaming up fake trades that only deepened the franchise's misery, but the lasting damage wasn't in the stat sheet. The damage was the signal sent rippling through the organization, infecting the locker room, and rattling Austin Reaves' inner circle. Rich Paul went on a microphone and told the entire world that the Lakers, as currently constructed around LeBron, Luka, and Reaves, are dead in the water. He declared they simply aren't built to hang a banner. And he explicitly said the only fix requires shipping Austin Reaves out of town. Whether LeBron signed off on it or not, that poison saturated the atmosphere. It lingered for 6 agonizing weeks, hovering over every huddle, haunting every handshake until the Magic game arrived, and the final play fell apart with the whole world watching. The tension inside the Lakers locker room isn't just simmering, it's boiling over, and the Locked On Lakers crew didn't just spot the fire, they traced the gasoline right back to the source. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. For the second time, Rich Paul didn't just throw shade at Austin Reaves, he publicly cut the legs out from under him. Rewind to the first strike, where Paul sat there nodding along when Max Kellerman suggested that on a real championship contender, Reaves is nothing more than a bench warmer. That first jab drew blood. But this, openly floating a trade to ship the kid off to Memphis, that is not analysis. That is a declaration of war. Brian Kamenetsky didn't mince words, voicing the ugly truth that every insider in Los Angeles was already whispering. It exposed the core insanity of this circus. Rule number 1 for an agent is to be the shield, blocking the noise so your guys can focus on the game. But Rich Paul, he is not blocking the noise. He is the one holding the megaphone, tossing grenades into the very sanctuary his own client needs to survive. And don't buy the spin. Paul tries to play it off like podcaster Rich and agent Rich are 2 different people, but that distinction is a fantasy that only exists in his PR scripts. Let's be clear, putting Reaves on the trade block does not do LeBron James a single favor. It certainly doesn't help the franchise. LeBron just dropped a masterclass against the Hawks, but instead of talking about a dominant win, the whole world is dissecting a podcast clip. And look at Austin Reaves, a kid who talks to LeBron every single day. He lockers next to the king. He is one of the few guys Luka has ever publicly co-signed, and now he has to look 3 seats down the bench and wonder if the face of the franchise is secretly plotting his exile. But the drama is just the smoke. The real fire is burning between the lines. That blown play against Orlando, the Rich Paul noise, they aren't separate issues. They are symptoms of the same bone-deep fracture. This is a structural failure that you cannot fix with media training or a polite post-game presser. The harsh reality is that the 3 most talented guys in purple and gold simply cannot function as a unit when the clock is running. Strip away the emotions, look at the cold data, and it is devastating. Brian Windhorst laid it out on First Take like a coroner reading a fatal autopsy report. He pinpointed the exact moment the rot set in. Austin Reaves returned from injury about 8 games ago. Windhorst locked in the timeline. The band was finally back together. LeBron, Luka, Reaves, sharing the hardwood after weeks of disruption. Then he dropped a statistic that should kill every ounce of optimism in that building. When you put Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reaves on the floor at the same time, they aren't just struggling. They are not a good basketball team. Not working through it, not needs more reps. Windhorst called it straight. They are bad. Full stop. And the numbers backing that up, they are bulletproof. Here is the twist. When it is just Reaves and Luka running the show, just those two, the Lakers look like world beaters. Without LeBron, Luka and Reaves are electric. The ball snaps, the energy flows. The spacing breathes. They create for each other naturally, staying out of each other's way, finding a rhythm that makes sense. But throw all three out there, the cliff is steep. We are talking about a massive 20-point differential. A 20-point swing per 100 possessions. Let that sink in for a second. That isn't a slump. That isn't something you fix with a couple of film sessions and a pat on the back. That is a chasm. That is the difference between raising a banner and fighting for your life in the play-in tournament. With just Luka and Reaves, the Lakers are blowing teams out of the water. Add LeBron to the mix, and the engine seizes, the spacing shrinks, the lanes clog, and the system suffocates under three alphas fighting for the same air. Windhorst didn't stop there. He painted the full, ugly picture of the roster construction. The trio is broken. But here is the maddening paradox. When LeBron runs the show solo, they are elite. LeBron alone, great team. Luka and Reaves, great team. Put them all together, total collapse. They don't just become average, they become a disaster. And the root cause isn't some complex mystery. It is fundamental physics. How can you lose with this much talent? It is simple geometry. You have three guys who are all scorers, but more importantly, they all do the exact same thing. That is the skeleton key that explains the whole mess. LeBron, Luka, Reaves, they are all heliocentric players who need the rock in their hands to be special. But there is only one ball, so when all three are out there, you turn two superstars into spectators, standing flat-footed on the perimeter, watching one guy work. The rhythm dies, the ball sticks, and the system dissolves into a pathetic series of your turn, my turn isolations. Defenses are reading it like a children's book, and if you think the offense is ugly, the defensive end is where this cancer really starts to spread. Let's cut the noise and look at the reality. When you roll out Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reaves together, you are not intimidating a single soul. That defensive lineup is soft, it's porous, and frankly, nobody in the NBA loses sleep over it. Luka Dončić is unraveling before our eyes. 13 technical fouls in just 44 games, spiking to a rate of .30 a night, blowing past his own already volatile career averages. 22. It's become a full-blown addiction, arguing with stripes after made buckets, contested jumpers, even dead balls, and it is absolutely bleeding this team dry in transition. Even the home crew can't cover for him anymore. Bill and Stu are calling it out live. Luka again, crying for a whistle. Gotta get back on defense. You can't win when your superstar is parked at half court pleading his case while the opposition is sprinting the other way, creating a 4-on-5 power play that any competent squad will turn into easy money every single time. The Sharks and the media smell blood in the water, and they are not holding back. Zach Lowe didn't mince words, calling Luka's theatrics unwatchable and out of control, noting that the meltdown is happening on literally every possession. Max Kellerman delivered the knockout blow, joking that Luka's statue won't be a jumper, it'll be him arms out, screaming at a ref. And the sad part is, this isn't new. This is a 7-year sickness dating back to his rookie days in Dallas, persisting despite a mountain of public apologies and empty vows to change, including that 2022 pledge where he tried Dirk Nowitzki's trick of singing songs in his head to keep cool. The music stopped a long time ago. The texts kept piling up. 73 over the last 5 seasons, the undisputed king of losing his cool in the NBA. Now that toxic habit is corroding the defensive integrity of a roster that is already desperate for stops in its heavy minutes trio. Father Time remains undefeated. LeBron is 41. He simply does not have the legs to chase elite perimeter snipers like he did even 3 years ago. Reaves has the heart of a lion, but let's be real, he is undersized and getting bullied by the league's premier wings and forwards. And Luka? The book on him has been written for years, critics screaming about his heavy feet and lack of lateral quickness, compounded by effort lapses that even his offensive genius can't hide. You put those three on the floor together, and you're opening a defensive vacancy that championship-level killers will exploit. Oklahoma City will swarm that lineup into dust. San Antonio with Wemby owning the paint, or Denver with Jokic in that relentless depth, they will dissect you surgically in a 7-game bloodbath. Why is the entire basketball world whispering about a first-round exit for this super team? Because you are a defensive liability. The narrative has shifted violently from ring season to Can this squad even survive April without getting swept? That is the tragic trajectory of a franchise where the three biggest stars want to occupy the exact same offensive real estate while offering zero resistance on the other end. The margin for error is gone, and Windhorse finally addressed the elephant in the room that everyone is terrified to touch. Here is the cold hard truth. These three guys do not fit. The chemistry is broken. It is not working, and looking at the timeline, next year it's likely just going to be Luka and Austin standing in the rubble. That is the quiet part screamed at full volume. LeBron James turns 42 in December 2026. His contract situation leaves the Lakers with zero leverage and even less of a clue if the King is coming back for one last ride. This whole organizational pivot, starting with the blockbuster Dončić trade in February 2025 that sent AD to Dallas, was universally graded as a steal for LA. But the blueprint was always designed for life, times after times LeBron. LeBron knows the score. He acknowledged it publicly after beating Dallas in January 2026, practically handing over the keys by calling it Luka's team. The front office is all in, consulting Dončić on every roster move like he's the de facto GM. They locked him down with that massive 3-year, $165 million extension in August 2025. Rob Pelinka, somehow surviving the regime change under Lon Rosen, has exactly one job this summer to save his legacy. Build a fortress around Luka Dončić that doesn't just replicate the same redundancies that are currently dragging the season into the mud. The analytics scream it, the eye test confirms it, and the postgame pressers are starting to leak the tension. LeBron James didn't need a microphone to send a message. He delivered a calculated 6-sentence monotone statement after a 1-point heartbreaker that told Luka Dončić and the world that he saw the open look. He saw the hesitation, and he wants everyone to know that play was drawn up specifically for Luka to take the shot. The look was there, but the ball ended up back in LeBron's hands because Luka froze and chose to pass. Whether that's genuine locker room friction, healthy accountability, or just a 41-year-old legend fed up with losing depends on the next few weeks. But the fit problem is embedded in the box score. And the numbers don't lie. The Rich Paul drama is still rippling through the organization like a shockwave. And looking at that bench, there is no cavalry coming to fix this defensive void. Time isn't just slipping away for this Lakers squad. It is violently running out. You can feel the oxygen leaving the room with every brutal loss, every moment of hesitation on the floor, and every cryptic post-game interview where the silence screams louder than the words. We are watching a franchise teeter on the edge of a total meltdown, and right now, nobody looks ready to stop the bleeding. The final buzzer sounds on this breakdown, but the drama in Los Angeles is just getting started. Keep your head on a swivel and tap the cards on your screen right now. You are going to want to see the next chapter because this war is far from over.